Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ball Around the Head. I'm joined by Ben and Andrew again. We are almost near the end of the first half of the season, which it's already gone by like this, in my opinion. Our All-Star break's almost here. They announced that they're going to do on top of the slam dunk contest at halftime. They're also going to have the 3-point contest and skills contest before the game. So it's going to be all of All-Star weekend in one night. It's going to be very interesting to see how they do that. It's going to probably be like a 5-hour event. I'm not sure how they're going to do that, but I mean, it's happening, so there's no more denying that. But we weren't originally supposed to talk about this, but it literally just happened as soon as we were about to go live. The Minnesota Timberwolves fired their head coach. Currently, they have the worst record in the NBA right now at 7-24, nowhere near the playoff position in the West. Definitely destined for a lottery. And also, these previous years, the worst record never really gets the number one pick. So they're kind of in a weird place right now. So, Ben, what are your thoughts on Minnesota finally getting rid of their head coach?
I mean, it makes sense. They've definitely been underperforming a lot this year. We all expected them to be at least a little bit better, not the worst team in basketball. Anthony Edwards has not been a bust by any means. Carl
That dunk was probably one of the greatest dunks I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Against that Raptors random double R. But continue.
But they just don't they're just not good on the defensive end. They still don't seem like a coherent organization that knows what they're doing in terms of direction, and everybody buying in. It's interesting because to do this now, a lot of the coaching market has subsided. There's still Wes Unseld Jr. is one of the names that comes to mind that we all thought would maybe find a position that didn't.
Who? Wes Unseld Jr.?
I got news. They already hired a new head coach that's not in the organization within a span of like 2 minutes. They hired the Raptors assistant coach Chris Finch to a multi-year contract. So they literally hired a head coach about 5 minutes after they just fired their head coach. So I don't know if that's tampering, because I don't know how you have an agreement like that. Like, hey, do you want to be a head coach? Hey, you want to be multi-year?
I mean, it's always tampering. If you've been through a free agency season, you know that deals happen in 2 seconds. There's always tampering behind the scenes, but that's a conversation for another time. I've never heard of this Raptors assistant, but yeah, big news.
All right, Andrew, what do you think about the dismissal?
Well, anything that the franchise does, whether it be dismissal, dropping players, anything is a step in the right direction, because clearly it's not going right. I have huge aspirations for the Minnesota Timberwolves this year, because I am a D'Angelo Russell fan, although I'm not a Karl Anthony Towns fan, but I thought D'Lo would be like carrying the team. That's not really the case. They obviously had the number 1 overall pick with Anthony Edwards. And I mean, as Ben said, he's not a bust at all, and I don't think he is either. In fact, I think after that dunk, he might be leading the league for Rookie of the Year, although the Hornets did actually win against the Warriors the same night. So, I mean, it balances out. That's a great hiring about the Raptors assistant coach. Do you know if he was assistant coach during the 2019 championship?
I have absolutely no idea. I'd never heard of the guy before 5 minutes ago. I would think so. I would assume.
Garrett, compared to D-Wade, that dunk all right. I mean, it was all right. It's all right.
While you're reading comments, Connor, your comment is spot on. Coach Holmgren is the greatest coach of all time. And Leo, shout out to you in the chat. All right, continue.
Yeah, I mean, I was done. Just it's a great firing and a great hiring. So, real quick. Kevin Garnett just needs to buy them and move them to Seattle, and then they'll be going the right direction.
True.
Okay, just another tweet just came out. So when he got first hired, Ryan Saunders, which is the name of the head coach, I thought he would actually be a good coach. I was actually pretty high on him. I thought he'd turn this franchise around. He's the son of the late Philip Saunders. One of those. I apologize if that's incorrect. Yeah, that's what it is. So I thought he had a great basketball mind, and it hasn't really panned out. They've been pretty bad these past few years. And like you guys said, they have some pretty decent talent on this roster. They're not like the worst team in the NBA. I'm surprised they're that bad. But at the same time, Karl-Anthony Towns has missed a lot of games. D'Angelo Russell has missed a lot of games as well, and he's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. So they have injuries, but at the same time, when they were healthy, they were not that great. So it's a good firing. There's really it just wasn't working out. And hopefully the Raptors have been branching out some pretty good head coaches recently, and they have a good coaching staff themselves. So hopefully this is a hire that, because the thing is, when I said earlier that the worst record normally doesn't get the top pick, the Warriors have the Timberwolves pick this year, top 3 protected. So if it does fall out, the Timberwolves basically just sent a full season just tanking for them to not get their pick, and then they have nothing to show for it, and they have to do miracle work in free agency and trade. So they're in a tough spot. They can't tank too hard, but also it's tough. It's tough. So that franchise is not looking so hot right now.
Yes,
and
Kevin Garnett.
Didn't they restructure the bottom of the lottery as well? So the bottom 3 teams had the same chance.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah. So it's
the bottom 3 is the same, and the top 3 it's like the top 1. Is the top 3 the same? I think it's something like that. Like they have this, or maybe the one has the number. I don't know, but it's pretty even, and it's worked out recently. All the tanking teams haven't gotten what they wanted, so. That's all we got about the Timberwolves. Probably we'll never talk about them again on this podcast. But anyways, the other big news in the NBA before that just happened was the All-Star starters were announced. Now, not to brag or anything, but I wrote an article a couple weeks ago saying who should be the All-Star starters and who will. And when I said who will, I was correct 9 out of 10. I just mistaken James Harden and Bradley Beal because I didn't think they showed Bradley Beal respect. But for the East, the starters are Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Joel Embiid. And for the West, it's Luka Doncic, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, and Kawhi Leonard. So I have to ask you guys straight up, did they get that right?
Yeah, they got that right.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about. It's close. It's close enough, basically. I would have had Donovan Mitchell or Damian Lillard ahead of Luka probably, but it's very close. I would have had maybe Trey Young over Kyrie, but it's close enough. They're toss-ups.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you, Daniel? No, you go.
You sure?
No, I think that. No, I think the biggest controversy is Dame Lillard and Luka Doncic. Like, Trey Young, you're crazy. I mean, you're crazy if you think he should be a starter. I mean, over Kyrie Irving, the same Kyrie that has brought the NBA so much media attention, the same Kyrie that balls out every night he plays and comes in with a walking stick and stages up the arena for the team. He is an all-star. But I will say it was kind of close between Luka and Dame, and obviously I'm going to lean towards Luka. I love Luka Doncic, but if I wasn't a diehard Luka fan, I would say that Damian Lillard definitely deserved it, especially since that Hulu ad with the doesn't just have live sports; it's a lifestyle.
Dame Dollar.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Damian Lillard should have been an all-star starter, and Luka Doncic said so himself. He realized that Damian has had a way better year than he has. And also Damian Lillard is working with next to nothing, and they have the 5th best record in the West, and they're doing really well. McCollum's out for a while. Nurkic is out for a while, and he's still putting up great numbers. He's obviously going to be a lock for All-Star reserve. But I don't know. Besides that, yeah, I think they're pretty right. I find it funny how Kyrie did not get a lot of media votes. I think that's a little
4th, yeah.
He kind of did that to himself.
A little personal there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he deserves it. I mean, I don't really like Kyrie Irving that much, but he deserves it. He was one of the best backcourt players out there. I just thought the fans would vote for James Harden because it's James Harden, not because.
And he just moved teams too. I mean, that's a big name. But I think that's because he wasn't voted. It's because he just moved teams, and it's not his team. It's not. He's a third wheel.
So I did just say that I believe that Damian Lillard is a All-Star reserve. So let's just talk about that. I'm going to ask you, Ben, we're going to go conference by conference. I'm going to go Eastern Conference first. Who are your 7 Eastern Conference reserves? And by the way, for those watching at home, there are 7 because there's 1 through 5 is 2 guards and 3 forwards, and then there's 2 wild cards where it could be any position out there. So, Ben, who do you have?
So my 7 Eastern Conference reserves, approximately in the order that I think they deserve it, are Trey Young, Jaylen Brown, Zach LaVine, James Harden, Domantas Sabonis, Julius Randle, and Nikola Vucevic.
Trey Young.
All right. Okay, we'll discuss that later. We'll name ours first, and we can have a discussion about it. Andrew, just name yours.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I was literally about to be like Anthony Davis, Paul George, but then he started naming the East, and I'm like, never eat soggy worms. So, the East. So Chris Middleton, Julius Randle, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Fred VanVleet, and Ben Simmons. No Zach LaVine, no Harden for me. Oh, wait, no. Okay, actually.
Was that 7?
Wait. Okay, sorry. Chris Middleton, Julius Randle, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Fred VanVleet, and Ben Simmons. That's 7. Obviously, I just think the Heat has just – I don't think they have any All-Stars this year. I mean, they've kind of underperformed. But we'll talk about it in a second. Daniel?
I think the fact of the matter is no matter what, there will be an all-star snub because there's some players that deserve it because of the stats, but also their winning record is kind of bad. But the counter argument to that is Bradley Beal's a starter and he has one of the worst records. Although they've been playing better recently, they're still one of the worst teams in the league. So it's a little interesting. One fan base is definitely going to be mad, but my 7 I got, and this isn't biasness. I've looked on multiple websites of who people voted, and Jaylen Brown was unanimous amongst all of them. Everyone thinks Jaylen Brown could be an all-star. James Harden, he's definitely going to get in. He's leading the league in assists, and he's putting up like 25 or something. Jason Tatum, he's been debated for some reason, but he's still putting up pretty freaking good numbers, career highs all over the board almost. Chris Middleton, I think he's a lock. He's pretty good. He's very underrated. Ben Simmons, he's having a good season. He's one that I'm not so confident about, but it could happen, I guess. Julius Randle, he needs to be in because he's making the Knicks a playoff team. They're currently a playoff team, and he's one of the biggest reasons why. And Zach LaVine, his numbers he's putting up is incredible. I'd be stunned if he doesn't make especially because all of his peers and coaches are saying he's got to make this. I'd be stunned if he doesn't. So,
no Sabonis.
No, I don't have Sabonis, but Simmons is subject to change. I'm not completely sold on Ben Simmons. That was one I'm just like, maybe.
Actually, I think I said Ben Simmons, but I'll switch it to Tobias Harris. I feel like he's had a better year on the 76ers.
Yeah. So, do you guys want to discuss the Eastern Conference first, or do you want to give a Western Conference?
Well, let's discuss what we just said. So Domantas Sabonis,
Yeah.
Why do you think I agree that he'll probably be a snub. But what do you think puts him over the edge of players like? Did you name Zach LaVine?
I did name Zach LaVine. Like Jason Tatum was one that was probably 8 for me. Because he very well may deserve it, but it's very hard to put 2 Celtics in there in the Eastern Conference All-Star team when they're at 500.
That's true.
But let me look at Sabonis' stats. I mean, the Pacers are above 500. I feel like they deserve to get an All-Star. And Sabonis, let's see here. Let's see, 21.5 points per game, 11.6 rebounds, 5.7 assists, over 50% from the field, averaging a steal and almost a block per game. I mean, I think those numbers are very good, and I think he's been underrated for a while. Like, he gets a few points from me improving and being the best, coming up to be the best guy on that Pacers team.
I think you're spot on Sabonis because last year he made the All-Star team and he didn't have that great of stats, but this year he has way better stats. His team's 4th in the conference. So maybe I actually would consider putting him over Simmons. I think I'm kind of leaning towards that, but I need to answer some comments real quick. Leo said, I've never heard of these guys in the Eastern Conference. And because LeBron James and Anthony Davis are just very popular players, the Lakers are one of the most popular teams in the NBA. And a bunch of these Eastern Conference teams that are at the top, they're not really big city except for like the Knicks and the Sixers and the Celtics. So that's probably why you've heard a lot more about Anthony Davis and LeBron, especially LeBron. He's the most popular player in the league. So yeah, and Connor Sabonis is carrying Indiana like the entire state. Yeah, he is. So yeah, Andrew.
That's fair. I mean, I kind of agree with what Ben said about having two Celtics. I mean, they are at 500, but they're such a popular team. Like, if you had to choose Daniel, Jason Tatum, or Jaylen Brown, because I know Ben already said Jaylen Brown. So, who would you choose, Daniel? Jaylen Brown.
Having a career year, he's very efficient from the field. Not today, but majority of the year he's been doing great. Tatum had a little struggle after coming back from COVID, so like his stats went down a little bit. But I think Jaylen Brown definitely deserves it. But Tatum has a pretty good argument himself. Like I said, there's going to be a snub. That's just the way it works. Hopefully it's not a major, because some people, I don't think any of you guys, wait, maybe Andrew did. Didn't you guys say Bam Adebayo?
No. The Heat aren't really performing this year.
I've seen a lot of people put Bam Adebayo. None of us have him on it. So that's my point. There's going to be some really good players who are left off. Me and Andrew don't have Trey Young. You do.
Is that even a question?
How do you guys not have Trey Young on the reserves?
I told you, I did some research. I looked at some articles from other people, and not a lot of people think Trey Young's going to make it in the All-Star game.
I just think the last year, the reason he made it is because Luka made it, and they're like obviously going to be compared. If you don't know, check the ball around the head post, Luka, Trey Young. I'm just saying. But they'll be compared for a while.
Speaking of that, you should follow us on Instagram at Ball Around the Head. Just putting it out there.
Yeah. I mean, no Fred VanVleet by either of you, not even for a wild card.
You're the only one who said that. I'm not sure. I think maybe he has a better argument because the Raptors are starting to play really good basketball. But again, I'm so confused on if they're basing this off winning or if they're just basing this off stats, because it's a little confusing. If it's basing off stats, I'm not sure Fred VanVleet's going to get in over like a Trey Young, Jaylen Brown, who are putting in better stats than he is.
I feel like it's a combination.
It's just the past 2 years, there's been an all-star in the East that have had horrible records, which is a little interesting to me because normally it's not like that. But the fans are storming now. They're the reasons that Trey Young and Bradley Beal got voted in. Although actually everyone
Luka got picked first. Oh, sorry.
No, I think everyone voted Bradley Beal, the media and the players. I think they all voted him in.
Mm-hmm. All right, West.
All right. Andrew, give us your West first.
Okay. Obviously, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert, Paul George. I know. Paul George, Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, and Donovan Mitchell. You got to go with Donovan Mitchell. So that's 7, right?
That's 6.
Huh? Why can I not count today? Are you sure? Anthony Davis, Paul George, Rudy Gobert, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul. You're right. And Brandon Ingram. Okay. Because I love Brandon Ingram. And I don't think Zion will make it. I just don't. Not this year. He's not really having the breakout of the year. And I know the Pelicans are horribly underperforming, but I love Brandon Ingram, and I'm just going to hope he gets in.
I mean, he's scoring like 5 more than Ingram, and he's really efficient. I don't know. For me, I have Zion over Ingram. I have Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, Devin Booker, Paul George, and Christian Wood.
Oh wait, but
really,
you're not going to have a Christian Wood's injured.
Okay.
Wait. I'm intrigued. Why Christian Wood? Because I don't think he's probably played enough games to get like a vote. I feel like he's been out a while.
Has he not played that many games?
I think he's been out for the past. I mean, I have him on my fantasy team, and he's been on my IR for quite a bit. So I think he's been out for a while. And he also missed some games before that. But I mean, he's putting up great stats. That's a really good choice. I would have picked him if he played majority of the year. I could be wrong.
He hasn't played that many games, but well, he's played like 2/3. games. I don't know. I still feel like it's a decent choice.
Okay.
But
I like that choice. I like that answer. I didn't really think of him. So yeah, I said earlier a lock is Damian Lillard. There's absolutely no way he doesn't get in. Paul George as well. He's putting up great stats as well. Rudy Gobert. I don't think any of you guys said that. Did you? Oh, no,
I did.
Andrew did.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert is definitely getting in because the Jazz are one of the best teams, and he's also one of the best shot blockers. Anthony Davis, DeMar DeRozan, who none of you guys said, who definitely deserves an All-Star nod. The Spurs are way overperforming right now, and he's one of the main reasons why. Zion Williamson, I have him in as well. Did I say Donovan Mitchell?
No.
I didn't. Donovan Mitchell and Anthony Davis, but
You said him already.
Anthony Davis, we need to pick someone else because he will not play that All-Star game. So who's going to be his replacement?
Out of a center, I mean, no Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Wait. I mean, let's see. 1, 2. I mean, depends on who your wild card is in. It might not have to be a front court. So
Yeah.
Shai could be a good answer.
De'Aaron Fox is popular too, but I just don't see the Kings getting an All-Star this year. They're all like role players, kind of like the Jazz. That's why I feel like Donovan Mitchell isn't a starter, even though he's obviously leading the Jazz to the best record in the NBA. He's obviously an All-Star, but all the Jazz players have a role. They play their role. Mike Conley plays his role. Rudy Gobert plays his role. You can tell they're playing their role because they're not playing the whole game like Luka or LeBron. They're just not. And then Donovan Mitchell plays his role. Bogdan Bogdanovic, number 44. I definitely pronounced that wrong, but he's been playing his role. And 0-0, the guy who missed the free throws for LeBron in 2016. Don't even know his name.
Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, he plays his role too. So I think the Jazz are like a role-playing team, and they're all humble. That's why they're not starting, like Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
Mike Conley, though?
I saw Mike Conley in one of them. I was surprised by that. But I think Mitchell and Gobert, especially Gobert, a lot of fans don't like Gobert. So there's no way he was getting voted in. Mitchell as well, he's not really amongst the backcourts where you have Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, and Luka Doncic. Odds are Donovan Mitchell is not going to get that many votes. But, I mean, they probably should. Donovan Mitchell, he went off the other night against the Clippers. Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely a team that deserves two. I mean, they have the best record in the NBA, so they're definitely going to get 2 All-Stars.
Did you say Book and Chris Paul?
I actually did not have any of those, to be honest with you. I didn't put any of the Suns into my thing.
I put Booker in. I sort of wanted to put Chris Paul in, but I don't know. I feel like Booker's more of the All-Star, and Chris Paul, even though he helps them a lot to win, is not exactly putting up All-Star numbers.
That's fair. I mean, maybe with COVID and everything, the NBA might choose like not trying to get as many players from different teams. I could see them choosing like double people from, you know what I mean by double people, like Chris Paul and Chris. Oh my goodness, D-Book, and then Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Like there's 2 per team. LeBron and AD, Chris Paul and Kawhi. DeRozan, you mentioned it, but he's kind of in Texas. He's probably cold a little, but he's just like an out, like he's just another person from another team, so they might not want to bring him. You know what I mean?
I mean, now that you guys say it out loud, this is we should point it out there that the reserves is the coach's vote. The coaches are voting for this. And Chris Paul is very well respected amongst coaches, and they know the impact he makes. That's why he made it last year. He didn't have the best stats in the world, but his impact on that Thunder team led them to a completely underdog season. And the Suns, they've been really irrelevant for the past few years, and this year they're actually really good, and they had like a 6-game winning streak earlier. So I think he might get the vote. I don't think he should, but I think he might just based off the coach's respect for him. Devin Booker, I'm not sure he's going to get it, but for a replacement, I kind of feel like De'Aaron Fox could get it. I feel like he's doing good, but also the Kings have lost like a little bit recently, and they're getting destroyed before we went on live against the Bucks. So I don't know, but it's going to be interesting. Anthony Davis for sure is not playing the game. He's out 4 weeks, and they said that 2 days or yesterday. So, I mean, basic math, he's not going to play.
And you can't even drop him on fantasy. They won't. I have him on my other fantasy team. They won't let you drop him. They just won't.
Yeah, because you shouldn't drop Anthony Davis.
But he's out for 4 weeks.
But when he comes back for the playoffs, you're not going to want him to be on someone else's team.
Oh, true. All right. That's fair.
So, yeah, I think that no matter what, someone's going to get snubbed, no matter what, for both conferences. I think the West has a little stronger argument for snubs. The East might have like a little weaker, but some people that deserve to be in. But it's going to be interesting. I believe the announcement's on Thursday. It's Thursday the 23rd. No, it's not. So maybe it's Tuesday that they announce it. I don't know. Something like that. Whatever. But anyways, I'm going to ask you two Laker fans right there. The Lakers have been a little recently without Anthony Davis. Are you guys a little bit worried about that?
You want to take this one, Ben?
No, I'm not worried. I mean, I'm not really worried what they do in the regular season. They're going to be bad without Anthony Davis. I've said it before. He is the most, even though LeBron does a lot more off the court and everything, Anthony Davis, no one contributes to their winning on the court more than Anthony Davis.
And they're flopping, and I'll admit that.
They're flop? What do you mean they're flopping?
Anthony Davis fakes an injury every game. Every game he fakes an injury.
I don't want to hear that.
That's how you know it's true.
I mean,
okay, I don't want to hear that, but yeah, they're fine. They're going to coast. I honestly did not expect them to, hold the 1 seed or the 2 seed for as long as they did. I thought they'd kind of start off slow and, coming off that short off season, save it a bit for the playoffs. I thought LeBron would take it easy a little bit more than he has, but so I think they're fine to coast for a little while. They've built up a good record to let them do it, and they're going to be good to go for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to that point, the final 4 teams last year, the Nuggets, Heat, Celtics, and Lakers, 3 of the 4 are extremely underperforming this year. The 2 of them are under 500. I think the Nuggets they're 2 games over 500, and the Lakers are just chilling at second place in the West. LeBron James making an MVP case. Like, it's interesting to me how like those 3 teams, although the Heat have had injuries, Celtics have had injuries, Nuggets have had injuries and protocols, but still they're underperforming a little bit. I just find that interesting. I just think that just proves how valuable Anthony Davis is to this team. That's literally all this is. The Lakers, yes, they're struggling now, and they probably will struggle a little bit. But again, I don't see them following to like a 6th or 5th seed. They're not going to follow that hard. Yes, he's out almost a month, but they have LeBron, and they're going to beat the teams they need to beat. Yes, Miami's not that great, but Miami did play a little bit good against the Lakers. That game was kind of boring, in my opinion, and at least till the end.
Which one, the Miami Lakers game? Yeah,
it wasn't that interesting. But yeah, this just shows Anthony Davis and LeBron James just how special they are. Without one another, they're not really they can't carry this team. So that's all I have about that. This is a topic that I actually really wanted to talk about, and I'm glad Andrew mentioned this the other day. I'm going to pull up the exact quotes right here. So after a blowout win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh, by the way, another piece of news, in case you may have missed it. Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond on the Pistons and Cavs, respectively, are basically told to sit out, and they'll wait to trade them or buy them out in a couple months. So Draymond Green didn't like that. Let's see where it is. So Draymond Green, this is a post-game thing after they beat the Cavaliers. He said, to watch Andre Drummond before the game sit on the sideline and go to the back and come out in street clothes because the team is going to trade him is bull. Because when James Harden asked for a trade and essentially dogged it, I don't think there was no surprise. No one is going to fight for the fact that James was dogging it in his last days in Houston, but he was castrated for wanting to go to a different team. Everybody destroyed that man. And yet a team could come out and say, we want to trade the guy, and then that guy's going to go sit. And if he doesn't stay professional, then he's a cancer, and he's not good in someone else's locker room, and he's the issue. We've seen situation Harrison Barnes getting pulled off the bench, or DeMarcus Cousins finding out he's traded in an interview after the All-Star game, and we continue to let this happen. At some point, we need to be treated with the same respect and have the same rights that the team have. Because as a player, You're the worst person in the world when you want a different situation, but a team can say they're trading you, and that man is to stay in shape. He has to stay professional, and if not, his career is on the line. So is Draymond right?
Yeah. No?
I mean, I don't think so, but I would like to hear why you think so.
I mean, he's right in that we don't consider, like, there is a double standard with it. Like, the players get so much more of the backlash in these types of situations in general. Whereas the teams, we just call it business whenever the teams do something like this. Whereas the players, we get all these speculations about, this guy's bad in the locker room, stuff like that. Whereas we don't really, we don't talk about how weird it is as a job. Like NBA players, they're privileged in so many ways to be able to be doing this. But as far as you can, on the drop of a dime, you can be traded and have to move across the country. That's a pretty weird situation for that to be your career, especially if you have a family or something like that. So a lot of the times we don't consider how it affects players. And I think Draymond's he's always been good at speaking up for the players in that sort of light. And I agree with him.
Andrew, I'm interested why you don't agree with him.
Real quick, I do want to mention, I agree with Ben. Like the NBA player, it's a weird circumstance being traded on the drop of a dime. Because, Lonzo Ball, when he was traded to the Pelicans, either his wife, baby mama, or girlfriend, or whatever you want to call her, they literally broke up because he was traded and she didn't want to leave LA. So I guess I do understand that it's kind of a awkward circumstance with the players. But I don't think Draymond was right in the instance of, like, he brought up specifically Anthony Davis when he, publicly asked for a trade and how much of a backlash it was. Yeah, I mean, you're not supposed to publicly ask for a trade, especially when you have a front office, because the fans, like, as a fan, if your star player is asking for a trade, like, you're not going to want to support the team anymore. You're not going to want to support the player anymore. And it's a lot of revenue that the NBA is losing. And it is a business type of thing because, these NBA players sign a contract to be in the circumstance to be moved, to be in the circumstance to get paid millions of dollars to play basketball, be in the circumstance to, win championships if that's what they want to do. So, I mean, I just don't think it was right to make that for Draymond Green to make that statement, especially because Draymond Green is so bad at basketball, but he is a good leader. And I mean, with Andre Drummond, you're not going to play him because they want to get the best value they can out of trading him, and there's no secret they're trying to trade him, and you're not supposed to make it. I mean, they probably should have kept it within the two players, but it's pretty obvious if he's not playing and he's dressed in street clothes that he's getting traded. I mean, if you're trying to sell a car and you drive around your car and then your car you hit something, aka Andre Drummond gets injured, nobody's going to want to buy that car. No one's going to want to get that player. So I think it's a bit of different circumstances. So, I mean, I get what Draymond Green's saying, but I just don't think it was – I think the teams have the right to sit players and to do what they want on the business side, because at the end of the day, they're getting the revenue for these players to get paid so much money to play basketball. I mean, it's unbelievable. And the basketball players do the right thing. They support their communities. And, Damian Lillard is a huge example of someone who supported his community with his NBA paychecks. Obviously, LeBron James, as I promised, school and everything. So I just feel like Draymond Green was not right by calling out the franchises. And just getting on Draymond Green, the Hornets versus Warriors game, I can't believe Draymond Green lost that for his team when he got ejected. And I was actually at dinner for my parents' anniversary watching, shout out to Mom and Roger, watching this Hornets and Warriors game. And I was like, I can't believe the Hornets just lost. Jump ball. I didn't have the sound on. I didn't know what happened, but I just saw that Draymond got ejected, and I was laughing because my brother's a diehard Warriors fan, and I'm a huge Hornets fan this season. And Terry Rozier had to hit the free throws, and of course my phone wanted the buffer, so we didn't find out who won until the next day. And the Hornets won because Terry Rozier hit the buzzer beater. So Draymond Green, stay in your lane, bro. Play ball. lead the court on the defensive end. Just don't get ejected and lose your team the game, and don't say all this stuff because I'm sure he got fined for saying that.
Yeah,
and again, he gets paid millions of dollars, so it's like a fine.
Yeah, the refs down that stretch were pretty bad, but as Steve Kerr said, Draymond needs to know better. He's a veteran like that. He basically cost their team the game because Terry Rozier had a game-winning 2, and if it wasn't for those 2 technical fouls, it would have went to overtime. So
he only got 1. He had a technical earlier in the game.
He got 2. He got 2 at the end.
Oh, okay.
Well, the only reason I know that is because Terry Rozier shot 2 free throws. So.
Really?
I like the point you brought up, and that's why they sit them out, is that they don't want them to get hurt. You see it in so many sports that when a player is this close to getting traded, aka as early as the season as Derrick Rose, they're not going to play them because if they get hurt in a really bad way, hopefully not, but their trade value's gone, the trade's gone, and everything's done. And they basically told Andre Drummond, hey, we're going to trade you, but we don't want you getting hurt, so we're going to have you sit out. And same with Blake Griffin's had a lot of injuries these past few years, so it's probably the best. But on the other end, as a Celtics fan, I relate with what Draymond Green's saying because when the Celtics did Isaiah Thomas so dirty after 2017, when he gave it his all, he was playing on one bad hip. He played after the tragic death of his sister, and just a couple months later, they traded him away. It broke his heart. Every Celtics fan was livid, and we all saw how the Kyrie Irving experiment turned out. So there's that part of the game where, as Ben said, they have personal lives, and this does affect them. And what Draymond's point is that when the team is like, oh, hey, you're going to get traded, it's fine. Like, they're gone. It's part of the business. But when the player wants to stand up for themselves and say, hey, I don't want to play for this garbage team, you're not surrounding me with people, then they're the horrible people who are going to hurt a locker room, and it's all this nonsense. And it's just not fair. We got to figure out which one's right. You can't just always blame the players because the players also have a perspective on everything. The coaches and owners, they're going to feed the media all these lies saying, oh, he was such a toxic teammate. He was a toxic person to the coaches or whatever. And you see that when immediately when a player gets traded, all these reports come out saying just how bad the person is. It's not a coincidence. And I love what Draymond said word for word. Yes, I understand the business point of view, but also you guys got to understand the player's point of view. They have the exact same amount of respect. They should have the same exact respect as anybody else. And he's right on. This guy's getting played. He played his whole life to play basketball, and he's now being told, hey, we're going to pay you to sit at home and do absolutely nothing for the next 2 months, but work out, stay in shape, and we'll let you know what happens. He's not playing an NBA game, presumably for a while. And he grew up wanting to play the game. I guarantee you, Blake Griffin, who's had a lot of injuries, he wants to play. Andre Drummond, who's in a contract year, who could get paid this offseason, he wants to play. And they're telling him, don't play. We don't need you. We'd rather start losing and start playing our young people. I don't know. I understand. I agree with Draymond on all of this.
Yeah, and when the teams are sitting a player because they're going to trade them, that's technical. That's what you can call the business aspect of it. Obviously, the player is good enough to be playing, but like you said, they're trying to save him because it's better for business if he doesn't get injured and so forth. But when players exercise their leverage, and they, like someone like James Harden, as a fan, I hate to see it, but he definitely did not play his best basketball before getting traded. Like, he was using his leverage, but when players use their leverage that way, it gets criticized more than when the teams say sit somebody like Andre Drummond.
Yeah. And another example, since we're speaking of Blake Griffin, is when they signed Blake Griffin, the Clippers, that huge deal, and said, hey, you see those retired numbers up there? Yours is next. And not less than 6 months later, they traded him away. And Blake Griffin still has a grudge against that to the day, and deservedly so. Like, they
didn't want to high five him.
That was funny. Yeah, that was funny. He was mad in that game after against the Rockets against CP3. That was one of the most heated games I've ever seen. That was when CP3 left. That's something that you guys should watch. If you never watched that game. That was incredible. There's way too many fights and all that stuff. But that's what I'm saying. There's no loyalty in this game for both sides. That's why Bradley Beal, people are like, trade Bradley Beal or Bradley Beal leave. But he's like, no. Him and Damian Lillard are the only people in this league that you see are just truly loyal. No matter what. They've had these outs. They won't take them. Those are the only two players I could say right now that are extremely loyal to their friend. And Giannis. He just signed a 5-year supermax when he could have signed with a contender this year. So, I mean, he could still demand a trade and get paid a lot of money, but I mean,
Kind of
yeah,
take the nest, yeah.
it was just an interesting topic in the NBA. That's something that definitely need to be talked about.
I
And
mean,
you'll hear, you go.
What you just said about Giannis, it's either you take the supermax or you get traded. And then players sign the supermax and demand the trade. It's like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of even signing the supermax? Because, I mean, I know they get the money, I know, but I mean, if they're going to demand the trade anyways, like that's so annoying. That's just it's just obnoxious. You shouldn't complain about the position you're in after getting paid so much money. I mean, John Wall, he kind of sat on the bench for 4 or 5 years, injured. I don't even remember, at least 7 years he was injured on the bench getting paid. So,
I mean, to that point, the reason the NBA brought in the Supermax is to have their star players stay. That's the whole reason why that Supermax exists now. And it's crazy because no one does it anymore. No one stays. Ben, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, I feel like most of the people who've requested trade recently, it hasn't been like right after they've signed a supermax or anything like that. I feel like there's usually like 1 year left on the deal. I feel like, just looking back on my recent memory.
I mean, just the two people that were just traded for each other were Westbrook and Chris Paul. Chris Paul just signed a contract extension, and a year later they traded him. Westbrook, I don't know what, but he got paid a lot of money, and they were like, "Yeah, I don't want to pay this anymore." But yeah, you're right. Like they normally stick it out and say, "Hey, like I'll give you 3 years to give me a championship." And maybe that's what Giannis's deal was. Like, "Hey, I'll give you till my final contract year. If I'm not winning an NBA Finals, you guys have to trade me." And that's maybe a secret handshake deal they had on the side. You never know.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a very interesting topic to talk about. I have one last question for you guys before we head off. DeMarcus Cousins, it's a couple days ago, it was reported that the Rockets were guaranteeing his contract. And then I believe just yesterday it was reported that they're going to part ways. So maybe it's kind of a respect thing to pay him and while he goes, whatever. But earlier today, the Rockets coach said that nothing's official or anything, but it's probably going to happen. So I'm going to ask you guys real quick, who's the best fit for DeMarcus Cousins?
The Lakers. Bring him back, honestly. Like, Anthony Davis is injured. They can trade. I don't know who they would trade. Maybe KCP, but he's such a good role player. Kuzma. I mean, it would be kind of a backhanded thing to trade Kuzma just to get DeMarcus Cousins, but I could see him going back to the Lakers. I can see him going to the Pistons, bad boy Pistons, bring him back. I don't know.
Ben?
I think, yeah. I mean, the Lakers are a good spot. Maybe even a team like the Sixers, if they want to try to keep the race up with the Nets.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the Nets. Could they even get him, though?
They'd have to waive someone, and he had to take the minimum, which, I mean, he's probably going to take anyways. But, I mean, it could happen. That's what I have. I have the Nets and Lakers, but if I had to put money on it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Lakers. I haven't seen a lot of Laker games recently because my cable subscription hasn't blacked out. But I've read a lot of comments or whatever that Marc Gasol is not playing that good this year, and Laker fans are tired of him. So
I mean, he's playing all right.
I think that some people are in love with this idea of Marcus Cousins, not what he actually is anymore. He's not that old all-star player anymore. He's kind of a role player now. He's not that dominant force he once was. He's going to give you offense, but not that much defense. And a lot of teams need defense, especially the Nets. Like the Nets will probably score 200 a night if they add Cousins, but they'll probably give up 240 or something if they add Cousins as well. So, yeah, it's be interesting what happens there.
That's something the Lakers gave up over the offseason was defense at the center position.
Oh, yeah. When they signed Harrell, that went right out the window. Harrell for Dwight, and that's a huge difference on the defensive end. And we'll see.
Underrated defensively, I think.
Everyone remembers the playoffs when playoffs or regular season when he held Embiid to 0 points on like horrible shooting and everything. So he shows up sometimes, but sometimes there's some centers that are faster than him because he is getting up there in age. So it'll be interesting. I think the Lakers, there's rumors that they're trying to get PJ Tucker too, who I think if they get him, that makes him a little bit more scary. He could be their defender at the 5-4, whatever you want to put him on. Give LeBron rest on the defensive end and Davis, whatever.
Oh my gosh, PJ Tucker. Yeah, I don't know how they get him though.
Someone to shoot that corner three.
Exactly. That would be very scary. But like Andrew said, it'd be interesting to see how they match the salaries or whatever. But I expect the Lakers to make a move by the end of the year.
People want to go to the Lakers. They'll take a pay cut.
Oh yeah, them and the Nets. They're going to want to go because if they get bought out or anything, they're going to want to go to the championship contenders. So yeah, that's all we got. Thank you guys so much for your comments down below. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you guys for your support. For those listening on YouTube, I left the links to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. If you want to check it out there, that would mean a lot to us. We'll be back next Sunday at 8 o'clock, same exact time. And until then, I hope you guys have a good week and peace.
Lakers back.